If you have ideas for songs that have gone nowhere, or you've tried to write a song but struggling, or you just wanted to write the next big hit and just don't know where to start, if any of these sound like you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to talk about everything you need to know about the reality of songwriting. Stay tuned. The concept of songwriting is not new, and there have been a lot of people before us that have written songs successfully. And I thought one of the easiest ways to start with this video was to talk a little bit about other artists who have been sometimes wildly successful with their songwriting. I'm going to review some of those and then talk about the themes around those. So let's just start with a famous songwriter, Paul Simon. He writes them for piano and on guitar, and he also thinks about who is going to be singing the song. So when he was singing with Art Garfunkel, he would keep that in mind as he was putting together the song. There's a whole interview that he did with Dick Cavett. There's a recording of that I'll include in the description for you to take a look at later. But it's really interesting to watch how he talks about the writing of songs. And he specifically talks about the inspiration for Bridge Over Troubled Water, and how he actually got the inspiration from another song that was a gospel song. Initially, you think, oh, you can just write songs without listening to other people's music, but sometimes it can inspire you to write something new or put your own twist on it. Another artist I want to talk about, more current, is Post Malone. And there's an interview where he talks about how his process is to actually just go into the studio and start recording and just play around with different recordings. And he said that typically he'll make 100 different songs and then pick the best 10 or so for his albums. His idea is that you need to write a lot of songs in order to get something really good, and you have to have a lot of ideas. The next person I want to talk about is Dolly Parton, and her specific style is really focused on storytelling. I love her song Jolene and have sung that, but she has another song called A Coat of Many Colors, and I think that really encapsulates the way that she likes to write songs. And so being able to draw on your own experience and tell a story, that's her approach. Moving on to John Legend, he creates a melody first, and then he'll make sounds like doo-wop and bebop and do-da-da-da-da, la-di-da-di-da, and use that and eventually translate those sounds into some sort of lyrics. He also talks about starting his songs in more of a conversational style, or I think of it as setting up the scene or setting up the situation. And if you want to know more details about his full process, you can watch his masterclass. It's really interesting. Another writer is Billie Eilish. Actually writes collaboratively with her brother Phineas, and they write songs also very focused on emotion and real life experiences. This was actually the only person that I called out that isn't a solo artist just creating songs on their own. So then let's move on to Niall Horan, and he starts his songs with typically some sort of guitar riff or drum beat to get the melody, and then expands on that. And then there's also this idea that sometimes artists will have a dream of a melody or a lyric and then wake up and have these song ideas. So he actually has mentioned that. And then all of his songs are really on his real life experience, but then translating that into something that other people can relate to. And I think being able to connect with the songs, and one particular song I think of is Flicker, and it's just, it's easy to relate to when you're starting a relationship, that initial spark that you have. And I think that that song for me maybe was not his most popular, but it really is a well-written song and enables you to connect with that. So I gave you a lot of different variety of older singers, some current singers, but I wanted to boil down the themes for you because that's the essence of this analysis that I did. The first thing is melody. Almost everyone starts with a melody. I didn't really hear anyone who started off with full-on lyrics to begin. So I think that talks to or speaks to the importance of the melody. The next thing that I think was really important is this idea of drawing on your personal experiences and connecting with the emotion of the experience, because that's how you connect with your audience, is over the emotion. The third theme is that you have to write a lot of songs. So you have to create a funnel, essentially, of ideas, and then the best ones will actually be finished and recorded and released. And in my experience, that's how it works for me. So it aligned with what I've seen as well. And then the fourth theme is having that openness to creativity. So letting a song sort of come to you or form on its own. So similar to what John Legend does with his creating melody and then having the lyrics just come to him, it helps align the mood of the melody of the song and then the words that go with it so that they're in alignment. But you have to be open to these things. And, Niall Horan talks about having dreams of lyrics. Well, for me, I've been driving in the car and come up with ideas for songs that later, I wrote and released. I hope this helps you get the concept of writing songs, that we're now starting with a point of background, because the worst thing to do is to start writing songs when you haven't really looked at the history and what has worked for other people. And so to know that information should give everyone a good start. Next, we're going to dive into the process. I think this is what everyone wants to know. How do you actually do this work? And the first thing, again, I want to it's like, hold your horses, let's slow down before we jump into actual writing. The thing that you have to have is sort of set the stage for your idea generation. And some songwriters, the ideas just come to them. This has happened to me. You need to lay the groundwork so that those ideas can come to you. It's like planting a seed on pavement. It's probably not going to grow very well if you just take a seed and put it over there on the pavement. But if you take that seed and put it in the right type of dirt and you fertilize it and you water it and you take care of it, it's going to grow. And so this is the concept of idea generation. So you need to make sure that you prepare the environment. That is what's really important. So how do you do that with creativity? Well, there are some easy steps and ways to do that. I'm going to walk through the 4 ways that I prepare an environment. So the first is journaling. So sitting down for 15 minutes every day, write whatever you want in this journal. This journaling, you can connect with your emotions, and then that can help fuel ideas for your songs. Number 2 is listen to a lot of music yourself. So listen to other genres of music, and always have that, your playlist of songs that you want to listen to. And you can listen to old songs, new songs, it really doesn't matter. But each song is like that learning opportunity to hear what someone else did and then build on that. And I think Paul Simon was really good at that. So take that example from his expertise. The third environment item is nature. So I'm actually sitting outside right now because for me, it's easier to talk and connect with emotions and write songs and come up with ideas, because I'm not inside the house where maybe I need to organize or cook or clean or do some other home task, and I'm outside in nature, and you can get a lot of energy from that. The fourth environment item is making time. And this seems like a small thing, but you got to make time to write the songs. If you don't have time set aside to do that, it's not going to happen. I actually suggest small increments of time, 15 or 20 minutes. Set your timer on your watch or a clock or your phone, and then just sit down and focus on just doing that task. Now, when we get into the writing, we'll talk about the how, but these are all the steps that you need to have in place before you start. If you like this content, please like, comment, or subscribe, as it will really help me grow my channel. Let's jump into the next step in the process of creating a song, and that is the writing part. Before we dive in, again, I keep holding everyone back before we jump into the writing. Make sure that you are ready to sit down and in a mindset, set your timer, have your guitar or your instrument available, a quiet place where no one can interrupt you, and begin the songwriting process. And the things that you're going to need to start, and I recommend a pencil, paper, and then a phone or computer to record yourself, and that is it. Some people like to use a computer, but I'm kind of a pen and paper person, And the reason for the pencil is because I end up doing a lot of changes as I'm writing the song. So sometimes it's easier to just erase a word or erase something. While very simplistic, it can save you a lot of challenges when you're writing in pen and then the pen, there's no more room to write the words or change the chords. And so sometimes the pencil can be your best friend. The next thing is to think about as you're writing the song, and there are song structures out there. Everybody has their own approach. I have this structure that I'm going to share with you, but you can take these sections of the song and really create whatever you want. It's an artistic process, so you have artistic ability to create it however you want. But typically songs fall into the intro, pre-chorus, some sort of chorus, and then alternating verse, chorus, verse, chorus. And then as you get towards the end of the song, you have a bridge of some sort, a chorus, and then the ending, and however you want to end it. But some people, like I just gave an example of the framework, but you can end with the chorus. You could start with the chorus. You can not have any bridge. You can just have verse alternating with chorus. It's really up to you. So I don't want you to get too tied into that. But if you're not sure where to start, this will give you a place to start. I can actually start writing the song. And what I typically do is I take a blank piece of paper, and at the top, I will write something, whether it's a word or maybe a title that I had that came to mind earlier, or just an emotion that I want to cover, like happiness or frustration or something like that, to be inspired to write the song around that. Then the next thing I do is that I decide on the chords that I want to play. And sometimes for me, I usually stick to a half dozen to a dozen chords that I use in my songs. But if I recently learned a new chord from playing other songs, I may want to incorporate that into my song. So I'll sort of decide up front, what are a few chords that I could put together that I can use in this particular song. And I may start out with a 2 and then add a third, or maybe start with 3. Doesn't really matter. You're going to just sit down and play and experiment. So that's what this initial process is just experimenting with some chords, experimenting with the rhythm of what the music is going to be. And then at that point, you should be starting to think about the melody that you're going to have. What I typically do is I'll write down the chords and then start to put some words in place, or some, I guess maybe some placeholder words, or maybe some words that rhyme that I think I can use together in this song. I had a recent song called Blackberry August, and so I did have some specific words in there that I wanted to incorporate, like watermelon, but nothing really rhymes with watermelon. From there, I would then do that experimentation, come up with a few, we'll say, chorus and verses in that experimentation that sort of kind of get that flow going. And then by that time, I'm probably 10, 15 minutes in already, maybe longer, but I try to not go too long. I don't want to walk away from this session until I've recorded it somewhere, me singing it. And the reason for that is because I typically will forget it if I don't write it down. So I'll have the written lyrics down and the chords, but then I'll have this recorded piece to then go back to, because that's the worst. You come up with this cool new melody and you don't record it. Recording is really important. At that point, you should have a semblance of a song. I think a lot of people think, okay, I can write a song in 15 minutes. The reality is that first 15 minutes is just formulating the basis of the longer song, and it's not going to be done yet. We're going to move into step 3 of the song creation process, that is refinement. What does that mean? Well, you're going to take the song that you started with and you're going to start playing it over and over and over, and then adding chords, adding a verse. Which part of the song is the chorus, and what is the story that you're trying to tell? So putting those pieces together in order to tell your story. And this process can take days, weeks, or months, depending on how much time you're putting into this playing and practicing. A week is not unrealistic. Each day you spend a certain amount of time, you sit down and you work through it some more. I have had times where I sit down and I say, I want to finish this and get it fully done. When it's mostly written, we'll say, like I feel pretty comfortable, I'm pretty close on having a full song here, I'll actually type it into my computer, print it out, so then I have a nice clean copy instead of all this messed up, drawn on changes and all the things that happen in the process. And then I will play that several days in a row, number of times, can be 10, can be 20 times. I'll also record it again and then listen back. Okay, where are the problems that I'm hearing, or what doesn't sound good? And so you have to do this continuous improvement on your song. So you create something, but then you've got to revise and refine and keep going with the fixes. Now, I don't want it to seem like this process has to go on forever. You can consolidate all these things and sit down for, if you wanted to, 5 hours in a row, write the song, refine, refine, refine. But there is a benefit to stepping away, clearing your mind, and then coming back fresh. And then you might come back and say, actually, this is terrible. Let me start over. Or I want to forget this chorus. Let me write something new. Having that clarity and ability to be critical of your own work is going to be really, really important in this stage, especially if you're writing songs by yourself and not having any help from anyone else. So then the last step after you have it finalized, you've sang it a bunch of times and you're comfortable with it, then for me that's done. We are at the last step in the song creation process, and that's decision time. What does that even mean? Well, I guess the question is, what are you going to do with this song? Do you want to publish it? Do you want to sing it in front of other people to maybe test it out? Do you want to make a recording and share it with others in a Reddit group, or do you want to post it to YouTube and get some feedback and thoughts on it? Any of these things are options once you have your song completed. And let's be honest, not all songs are going to make the cut. You shouldn't feel like you have to do releasing of every song. I guess last year I got into this phase where I felt like every song I wrote, I had to take it over the finish line and get it finished and released. And more recently, I'm finding that just finishing, having a finished song that I can sing, to me is good enough in some cases. And then the ones that I think have more value or I think are better, those are the ones that I end up choosing to release. So if we go back to the thought process that you have to write 100 songs to get 10 good ones, 1 in 10 are going to be decent. I do want to comment that Hozier wrote a song and he wasn't even going to release it, and he ended up releasing it, and it was one of his most popular songs. So keep that in mind. You never know which one is going to strike a chord with a lot of people. So this is why sharing in some format can help give you some sort of indicator about that. So to wrap this up, I wanted to just mention that while writing a song is an art form, there's a clear process behind it, and you have to make space for that. It's harnessing your ideas. You need to get those ideas to flourish, and you need to finish it into a final song. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you are now ready to go write your own songs. And if you're interested in making a recording of your song, I have a video that I will share at the end here on how to make your first recording. If there's any questions that I didn't answer and you want to ask questions, please include those in the comments, and I'll create some future videos to answer those questions. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will like, comment, or subscribe, and I will see you on a future video. Thanks.